Well, welcome, my witchy guys, gals, and non-binary pals to Spill the Cauldron. My name is Ari, and I'm here with my fabulous fellow co-host, Rain. Now, bestie, can you please tell me what this bewitching podcast is about?
I thought you'd never ask. So, Spill the Cauldron is a show where we deep dive by giving our thoughts, opinions, rants, and tangents into all things witchy media related. So, this week's episode, we're going to discuss Queenie from American Horror Story Coven. And for those who do not know who this character is, basically in 2013, with American Horror Story, was the release of the Coven season, full of 13 episodes, and one of the main cast members is Queenie, a black witch who is not only half witch but also a descendant of Tituba that connects her with a voodoo line within the episodes, and we see that unravel throughout the season. So let's get into it.
Yes. Shall we get started with our first point to Queenie, and the lack of power dynamic and or growth?
Yeah, since this is your point, you start.
Oh, okay. That's fine by me. Okay, so what I mean by this is just her entire character, ladies, gentle fish and gentle dams alike, complete disservice. I'm saying she could have just not been on the season and made just as an impact if as she was on the first season. And I can understand the representation for what we're going to talk about a little later. But as of now, putting her on the screen with no of anything, whether she had certain powers or not, and did 5 of the 7 wonders and what have you, still felt as if she was a hollow character with certain aspects to herself covered, but damn near little to nothing. And that's kind of my gripe with how they are to her. They just treat her as a secondary character. I feel as if Myrtle has had better power and things, and she's only done maybe 3 kinds of powers throughout the entire franchise with Apocalypse and Coven. I don't know. It's just a major disservice, I feel like, and they just did our girl dirty. I don't like it.
Also, I feel like another point with the lack of power dynamic that's also really confusing is how pivotal they make her ability of mimicry that relates to voodoo, but then do nothing with that.
Precisely my point, bestie. It's like, so you're meaning to tell me there could have been no instance of her and Marie Laveau, like that scene where it was Madison and Cordelia or Fiona was trying to show her how to use her power of mind control and all this. Why couldn't we have had a scene like that with Queenie? Again, they're such similar characters to each other that they even bump heads for that reason. That there could have been a lot done, and there just absolutely was not.
Also, this is more related to writing, but the way that Madison connected more with Zoe than she did Queenie, even though they're kind of foils to each other.
To me, that just set up the whole white separation, segregation kind of setup that they were trying to do with race relations and the entire, episode or series, or at least this series. And I just, for it to be a person that doesn't understand the struggle, it was pretty bold of them to make their character or that character only go through struggles and not give her any defining of anything.
Because her struggles are related to racism, which then leads us to our next point. That's with the lack of power in terms of how her storyline as the token black character is related to a racism storyline, similar to Rochelle from The Craft.
Yes, absolutely.
Because the way that Rochelle originally as a character was going to be cast as a white girl, and she was going to have an eating disorder arc that she was struggling with, especially with being on the swim team and being pressured because of that, of being an athlete and wanting to stay on top of her game. But then when it got cast with is it Rachel
True?
Rachel True. Thank you. When she got cast as Rochelle, and then they changed her plot line to include getting slurs thrown at her and having her hair
being called a negroid. She was just reduced to being called that, and that was it. Yeah, yeah.
Also, to clarify, we are both black people, so
Oh, so sorry, everybody. I'm sorry to break the fourth wall. I'm in seeing the wizard behind the curtain. Yes, we are both black, so we are very entitled to speak on this. This might come as a shock, but yes, black people do exist, and they talk about witchcraft. So hopefully, this isn't a shock to any of you lovely listeners, but we will be continuing.
right, there we go. Disclaimer.
I'm glad you thought of it because I keep thinking, damn,
Cause,
they're right. Like,
cause like this is an audio format, and like we know we are black. We've seen each other, but like
I see you, you see me, but other people don't see us, and that's a problem.
so like yeah, we're coming from a place as like both practitioners and both black people where that intersection happens in media, and we're starting with Queenie because she is so underrated. Like, good gracious.
Criminally underrated, I would say. So much I had to use a 4-syllable word that's not 4 syllables.
No, because that and like going back to like her storyline only being related to racism. Like, one of my notes for this episode was literally like, if the only thing that a producer can say about a person of color as a character is their struggles and how other people treat them, then they really do not know the character, because it's not about them, but how other people are reacting to them.
It's also just not always going to be about fucking color. Sorry. Like, I understand that you wanted to set this up and you wanted this show to be semi-edgy and or progressive for that time. But if you're not going to handle this heavy, heavy subject matter that America and Black Americans specifically have been exposed to for, I don't know, about 400 plus years, people are going to have a problem and a concern with it. And I think that leads into, yes, much like you said, of how she got, or how Delphine, a literal racist, immortal racist, in quotes, from the show, got more screen time and character development. No, let me say that again. Character development. Meaning there were writers that sat in a room, pulled inspiration from a quite literal immortal racist. Like, actually, she did this. Like, it's documented proof. To give her a redemption arc.
Not
let
even.
let us sink that in real quick. That she got a semi-redemption arc then, if it's not going to be not even. And look what happened. I mean, wow. So progressive, you guys.
Also, another thing to add to that, because I think this relates to like the lack of power dynamic and also how American Horror Story Coven like treats race, where it's like they have this weird fluctuation of like wanting to depict voodoo and like Marie Laveau and like the tribe that she is like currently in with New Orleans and like throughout time, where it was like they were spooky, they're dangerous, but then like also make them seem weaker than like Cordelia's magic or like Fiona's magic, even though she came to Marie to find out about immortality. Like,
so ironic. It's like irony through most of this, if you want me to be honest with you.
Because like there was a point where it's like before Roanoke and before the reveal of like the supposed like first Supreme at that point, where it was like,
which was never covered, ladies and gentlefish, just so we're aware.
Which was never like brought up again, like Lady Gaga in the wig.
Scathach. We just know that it was Lady Gaga with brown teeth, and that was supposed to be the shock factor. Like, she's not worn a literal fucking meat dress before. Why do I care that she's gonna wear a bone on her head? Honest, like, sorry, like you're not gonna convince me that they just could have did so much. It's the first Supreme, for Christ's sake. If she's coming over from another country with old magic, give it to her. What are you talking about?
Also, that, and like before Roanoke was even established, like even if we ignore the loophole or like the plot hole that is Roanoke and like Scathach, we're in American Horror Story Coven itself when they talk about like how Tituba was the one that gave the girls of Salem the gift of necromancy. And it's like, you made a really good point of like, would that not make Tituba the first Supreme, supposedly? But then like, she is never treated that way. She's continuously called a slave. which
And
like
an illiterate voodoo slave girl, just so, again, oh, no. I'm going to give specifics verbatim, quotes, because you got to hear this shit. I know I'm not the only one. Like, come on, bro. Voodoo slave girl, and you added illiterate in front of it. Like, and then saying she couldn't read a love potion from something else if she had to.
a recipe of
like,
chocolate chip cookies.
Thank you. And I was like, that's just as fucked. And it's so funny because I think that speaks to Fiona's hypocrisy, which I really hope we cover at some point in this. That she says, there's nothing I hate more than a racist.
Mm-hmm.
And then proceeds to say, you think an illiterate voodoo slave girl gave me my crown. Wow. Love that for us.
Yeah, straight up. Not even a microaggression. That's a macroaggression. That's true.
It's just aggression.
It's just aggression.
Like, it's literally just mean at this fucking point. And it's like, aw, she's being mean. Like, no, I don't mean it like we're children. But it's like, I mean, you hear her. I hear her. Fuck.
Okay, also, the irony, because Marie Laveau is older than Fiona.
Wow, I fully didn't clock that until... Oh
like,
my god.
She's fully older than Fiona and has
that's frightening.
And she has a lot more power and experience, right? But then Fiona straight up comes in treating her like a second-class citizen in her own, like, boutique. Like, when she says, maybe in a few hundred years you'll have 2 shithole hotel or 2 shithole bars or something with, like, her hairdresser.
2 shithole salons, yes.
Yes, that line. When it's like, the reason Marie chooses to be in a salon is not only because of, like, the aspect of hair within voodoo to, like, be able to influence people,
mm-hmm.
but also because it's literally the heart of a lot of black community culture for, like, gathering of women especially with, like, their hair care. So it's like, she chooses to be there. It's not that she can't have wealth, but that she chooses to be in the heart of her community.
Exactly. It's the 9th Ward of Louisiana is what I wish people would understand, which is a more predominantly black area in New Orleans and was one of the worst places affected by Hurricane Katrina. And so, yes, it was subjected and has become, in a sense, not as traditional looking, if you want to call it. But you know what I won't call it? You know what? We can't get there yet.
What? Get what yet?
I was going to bring up Queenie's outfit in that word, but we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Honey, sweetie baby pie. Ooh.
But before we do move on...
Yes, please.
Like, I do want to talk about that because it is, like, the location is very important. Like, I would argue that, like, it's not only is it New Orleans, a very predominant history of not only just black culture, but, like, and voodoo specifically.
And practices, yeah. Congo Square. Let's talk about... See, another... So sorry to cut you off because I know you're about to make a fire-ass point.
No, go ahead.
I mean, we're going to use the literal place to Madame Delphine Lalaurie, like her house, all this, what have you. Why the fuck can't we go to Congo Square where they used to congregate and do voodoo during Sundays and have Queenie experience that, get to... I'm telling you, just missed opportunities. I could go on.
Like, yeah, that is a missed opportunity because it's like not only... Okay, let me cover the point I was going to cover before going to the next one relating to Queenie's story. Where, like, you mentioned the 9th Ward, and especially because keep in mind that Fiona had to walk across town to get to the 9th Ward because they're literally... Like, they're literally separated from each other across literal red lines. Not just in the treaty, but, like... Not just in the treaty, but just, like, literal, like, racial lines.
Talk about it.
And that, and also how Kyle is from the 9th Ward. So it's like, even with having privilege in terms of, like, Robichaux Academy, there are still characters within the universe that aren't operating in the same area of privilege as the girls in Robichaux Academy are. And it shows, this is kind of a transition into Queenie's story, because it shows how isolated Queenie is from the other girls, not just in terms of, like, racial lines, but also just, like, not being able to talk to each other kind of lines. Because Madison was a child star, Zoe was born in the suburbs, based on how Nan dresses, I assume her family is also affluent, and Cordelia is literally the daughter of the Supreme and grown up knowing she was a witch the entire time, knowing about her full powers, never having to have like an awakening moment. Like,
Zoe.
yeah. So like all of these points, and it's like Queenie is the biggest outlier because it's like, how did she find out about her powers? Because when she has that opening scene with the guy disrespecting her and then like her burning him with oil, that looked very practiced and intentional, not like a
Like
holy
she
shit.
knew. Yeah.
Like she fully knew. So it's like there's so many unanswered questions about Queenie that with her story, with her connection to voodoo, with her connection with Titiba, and also the
They
connection
lost it.
and also the connection to New Orleans, there were a lot of missed points that should have been critical to her character that just like weren't
Exactly.
discussed.
Awful. It just, like I said, just such a disservice. I mean, there was another. Yes, we spoke about it before. How her powers are only in helping her white counterparts. She's the one that brought Misty back. She's the one that tried to bring Zoe back. She's helped the girls, and it was gifted with betrayal with how they would look at her and talk to her again. I mean, they talk about the weight and everything, the weight aspect of her finding comfort and solace in food. But that's never touched on. Like you said, she's the worst outlier of them all in that they give her no screen time, but set her up to be one of the most dynamic characters. She has a push and a pull between witchcraft and voodoo that they barely play on throughout the entire season because they're focused on a little white girl. And I just don't get that. Like, I don't get how you can center her when she's not. It just makes no sense, honest.
Cause that and also like not only just like this is an addition to her disservice because she becomes a mammy character because of how she basically dotes on Delphine. Like her arc is tied to an immortal racist, but as the immortal racist's quote unquote helper to try and like redeem her from the racism that like is embedded in her, which is crazy. And like even when she left to go to the other side with like Marie, it still wasn't focused on her. She was still focused on Delphine. So even when it's
Or
about
Marie Laveau and their feud. Yeah.
like even when it's talking about like black characters, they're still centering white people in the conversation.
All while trying to be like, when Marie is like, we know what it feels like to be second rate to a little white girl our entire lives. You're making the black character, the actual dark skinned character, I might add, because Angela Bassett's character, or Marie Laveau, right there, was not dark skinned. She's brown skinned at best. So it's like, damn, y'all just ixnay on her. You want this plus size, dark skinned individual and do nothing with her. How the fuck she can do mimicry, everything else under the sun, but she gets killed by a fucking ghost? That's funny. That's a man with a 20s mustache took my girl out. I'm sick.
Also, she has the power of Descensum. She had like literal proficiency in astral projection and being on the side of death. So like how she got taken out by that ghost and not being able to come back on her own is beyond me.
She literally visited her own personal hell.
And
And you're
came
meaning to
back.
tell me she couldn't fuck it. She let a nigga with 3 names, James Patrick Marsh, kill her. I'm sick. You don't get it. You don't understand me. I'm tired.
Also,
They did my girl so dirty.
also she had telekinesis. So even if before she got stabbed, she would have fucking flung it.
At least the knife, if she couldn't, if she couldn't stop him, she could stop the knife. It's an actual object.
Right, which is really because that is like another thing about like the power inconsistencies with Queenie and like a lot of the
Talk about it.
characters were so confusing. Because like one minute you have like Queenie fully able to like transfer her pain to someone else, and also at one point we're gonna talk about it because that gunning down scene, I will never get over. How they,
It's traumatic. I'm sorry.
I have to skip it every time.
It is. It's death traumatic. It's not something that I want to watch. And the songs in it, like you said, about finding freedom and it being, again, old slave hymns, and it's black murder from a white man
for a white woman because he was angry.
It's so asinine to think, like, y'all did a disservice without thinking you're doing a disservice to these people by, like, trying to center their stories, and you just look a fucking fool.
Cause, like, fully, okay, to get into
Excuse my language, sorry.
No, you got it. There's gonna be swearing this whole time around. We're fine.
Oh yeah, trigger warning. Swearing and mentions of blood, guts, and other not great things.
That's gonna be the beginning of this episode. Good gracious.
Oh my god, I forgot about that, yeah. Whoopsie.
But, like, the way that it's, like, Hank being a witch hunter and, like, that plot twist where, like, he literally gunned down the shop just to feel relevant, and then and, like, doing it around his white wife who he got divorced from, like,
and cheated, girl.
And cheated on, which, like, even with Black Deaths in that series, it's still surrounded by white people, which is, like, my main gripe.
Every time.
Like, every time without fail is actually fucking crazy to me.
Once is an instance, twice is a hobby, third is a prophecy, baby.
No, because that I'm like another disservice, because I'm just gonna list all the questions I still have about Queenie that they did not get into, that other characters kind of got, but not really.
By all means, go ahead.
What was her life in Detroit before Miss Robichaux's Academy? What was her being raised in the foster system change how she is as a person? Also, what about her adoptive family?
How she discovered her character and how she discovered her power. Like, there are just so many missing plot points for her. It's ridiculous.
Because, like, I know with Zoe, her family knew about Robichaux Academy, and that's how they called Myrtle in that, like, first episode. But, like, how the hell did they find out about Queenie being a descendant of Tituba? Like, fully? How did they know?
Because there's no way she found that out. Like, and if they say that she did, she just found it out because she Googled it herself. Such lazy writing. I don't care. Like, say what you want, but if you're gonna sit there and be like, oh, well, she found it because she Googled, fuck you, okay?
Because, like, I fully didn't know she was a foster care child until I looked at the wiki for her character, because it's never mentioned in the show. Like,
exactly.
Because then it's like, how did her family react to her having powers that they sent her away? Or what made her change her mind to join Robichaux Academy? Because Cordelia mentions her hesitating at first, which is like... Damn. What was that struggle like?
And if you want me to be honest, am I allowed to ask my question?
Yeah, you got it.
girl boys. This one right here is, wouldn't it have been Queenie to stop all of them zombies if she's closer to the voodoo side and bloodline from where they came from? See, it's another person having their powers centered around a white girl, and it being fucking Zoe being like, no more zombies. And that's it. She got it. Like, come on.
Because that's the other thing with the show that shows up a lot that I think intersects with what we're talking about with our discussion about the power inconsistencies, where it's like, without fail, no matter how strong canonically like Marie Laveau and Queenie's ties are to magic, especially with their descendants and like their ancestral line, and like with Tituba, especially for Queenie, it's always going to be ranked as weaker than a white person, just because that's how the show is written, which is really problematic.
And that's exactly my point. And also, another one regarding like relationships and things that I feel like could have made Queenie a more fleshed and fully realized character was her dynamic with Madison, because we're going to touch on it when we get to that monstrosity of a season. But in Apocalypse, they meet each other in hell, and Madison goes to hug her, and she's like, "Ugh, get off me, bitch!" And like, it's like funny, but like they're frenemies, okay? But in this season, their original season, they fucking hate each other. They're going after each other, literally going after each other's throats, saying, "I'll do it," and things of that nature. When they're so similar to each other, I feel like there could have been a reconciliation. Like you said before, that they hide behind tough exteriors, but they're actual soft individuals. And I think Madison feeling neglected by her mother, and going through those issues of being a child star and being exploited, could have easily have translated over to someone not feeling wanted and feeling like they were just a foster child and exploited and what have you. Granted, that could be a reach between the two, but
that's not a reach.
I feel like it's a genuine similarity that they could have shared and moved from, as but they just baby.
Okay, I know how Madison discovered her power telekinesis was kind of violent, but like especially for Queenie, and especially with the origins of like voodoo, especially being for the defense of people of color against their oppressors, like especially in like a brutal environment that the foster care system, especially in the United States, is, like that could have been how Queenie found out that she could do that as a way to protect herself, which would make sense for her exterior and her environment. Like, and they just did not go into that or like explain that or like see how Queenie connected more to Madison than Zoe did.
Because what do they have in common other than being skinny, small, and white? And I will give you time to figure it out. Because even Zoe was gagged. She was like, "Holy shit, you're Madison Montgomery, movie star." Like, she didn't fucking know. Like, she was starstruck by her. So it's not like she was, "Hey girl, like we're friends, this, that, and the other." You could say because of what happened to Madison, that was what their bond was, and whatever.
But that's still traumatic, though.
That's what I'm saying. It just doesn't feel like that'd be a worthy explanation or anything as to why they did what they did. That makes sense?
Yeah, because like that, and I feel like this is another weak point of the story, where it's like how we don't know when these girls met each other. Like, we just know that Zoe meets everyone after Queenie, Nan, and Madison are there, but we don't know
and play a prank on her, yes.
Yeah, like, we don't know when they got there. Like, sequentially.
See, and that's why, because when they all sat down to originally talk about it, and Cordelia's like, "Look, we're extinct, etc., etc." It's like they already had their history, because that's when they're all explaining to Zoe, I guess, like, what happened, and that's when she's like, "I'm the heir to Chichiba," and then Madison goes on and she's like, "Is this where we all sing Kumbaya?" And then my favorite line, I think, of the entire season was, "Bitch, I will eat you."
Yes.
Because I think that that's just a testament to me and what I would say to someone.
But, like, I still don't like that they made a plus-sized person make even a threat related to food. Like,
I mean, girl, look what they say to her the entire time. Like, no, Moshiri, they don't like you because you're fat. They're not gonna like you because you're black. Black is coal. What the like? Okay,
this is getting into the microaggressions.
I'm sorry. I don't understand. Me personally, I'm not gonna let somebody tell me that I'm unattractive because of my skin color and then still fucking help them. But I guess that just was a actual character development or part on Queenie's part. But it's like, she didn't need that redemption. She was already a good soul beforehand. So I don't know what they really tried to do with that, but it was not what they thought. Let me tell you.
Because, like, the way that Queenie's character was so undercooked, because even though she has a hard exterior, she's a very...
Undercooked.
No, listen.
That is a fabulous word to use. I gotta use that. Oh my god.
No, because...
It's just a little undercooked.
Because, like, the way that, like, she had... Like, the reason I say undercooked is because she had so much going for her that could have been great, but it was just not let to, like, rise.
Oh, it just was like... Because y'all just don't like... Y'all just don't like fat black people, do you? Just say it. Just say it.
Like, especially, like, when it's black fat woman, particularly. Because, like...
Oh my god, because not only is it misogynoir, but you gotta sit there and deal with the fat phobia of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Just no one gets to enjoy their soup, and definitely not Queenie. I'm telling you. It's like...
Because the other thing with Queenie, not just the mammy stereotype, but also with how she falls into the black, like, strong black woman stereotype while still being a very insecure teenager. Like the way that, like, people, like, in the episode with Bastien, right? Like, when that attack
Yep.
happened, when, like, they were talking about how, like, there's a boy next door, and, like, they were laughing essentially at Queenie because she was a virgin, and how, like, her first time having sex would have been with Bastien, almost, who is literally half beast.
That just, I mean, wow.
And,
Like, the
like,
jokes literally write themselves, ladies and gentlemen.
and, like, not even, like, just with Bastien, but, like, on behalf of trying to save Delphine. So, like, again, it's not even about Queenie, it's about Delphine. Which, like, why are we centering a racist immortal?
I just don't get it. But that does bring us to the other point of, oh my goodness, that, hold on, speaking of, like, shitty character use and everything else, that she's fucking smart and no one covers it. Like, I'm not saying that we need to see her bust out an entire astrophysicist like equation,
No.
but come on. You did nothing to her character other than make her a sassy black girl that's like, I got an A in trig, like calculus, all this. And it's like, I fucking hate math, so I revere her for that. So it's like, the fact that it's not being covered, it's like, okay, but we can say that Madison's a movie star and that be a thing.
Because, like, okay, we're gonna get into Queenie about how she is so smart. Because, first of all, she figured out how to kill Hank with silver blessed bullets that even made Fiona shit rocks.
Silver blessed bullets is what I don't think people are hearing you say. Blessed, like what they use for, like, werewolves, vampires, and shit, if we're gonna keep up the nice little folklore. And yeah, no. Like, literally no.
That, and, like, she was the first to realize with, like, the Ouija board thing that they did, the spirit board thing, that it wasn't, like, Madison they were talking to, and she literally cut that shit so quick.
Yeah, her being like, no, stop it, cut it out.
She straight up snapped the fuck out of that shot glass.
I'm weak, and that was one of the first times I ever saw, like, Zoe be like, oh, fuck.
Which, like,
oh, wow.
Like, again, she's the voice of reason, and even when Zoe, like, fucked up, and she was like, girl, there ain't no English in those books, how are we gonna stop this shit? Like...
And she asked a hard-hitting question. How was you gonna stop that shit? And then, of course, the white savior of the day just,
That might have...
zombie, stop!
That could have honestly been her practicing divination. With the book thing?
I personally feel like it was divination. But it is what it is. Hold on. As we were discussing.
Queenie's really smart, but so underutilized as a character.
Just the same as Nan, I felt like literally we were watching they could have had the relationship that Zoe and Madison had, and I feel like they should have had.
I feel like it would have been less toxic.
Well, see, I guess that's what they didn't want, and they wanted the whole season to be pitted against them both, because what else is new? Just two women going after each other, and men are like, oh my god, I love it.
This could be another episode, but just, like, the amount of misogyny in a season about...
Far too much.
I said season.
See? Feminism, ladies and gentlemen. It should be called a season.
In a season focused on women, it was so misogynistic.
Especially towards the fuck each other. Again, I don't know if you brought up them bringing up the virginity aspect, but being like, who popped your chocolate covered cherry? It's like, I'm sorry, girls do be talking about that. I will speak for myself. Girls do be
Mm-hmm.
talking about sex and whatnot, but no one says that. No one says that, girl.
Not derogatorily, at least not in my experience. But then again,
Yes, you know. But then again, what do we know? We only hang around, not problematic people.
so like maybe it is that like heated.
It could very much be. I'm not sure. That's as good as mine, but I just feel like in my spirit that's not the case.
Right. I feel like
And if
okay.
it is, y'all need help.
This is another thing about like middle school or like high school behavior. We need to get into her style. We need to get into her wardrobe.
Oh, y'all. I'm gonna let Rain have the floor because Bestie would not let this one go. I mean, cold dead hands wouldn't let this one go. So by all means, Bestie, you got the floor.
Okay. I am someone as like a person in the visual arts field in my degree in my like area of study and like film analysis where what someone wears and what they look like is very important to informing a character or rather informing a viewer very quickly about a character's personality, what they operate with, what their background is based on how they dress. The amount of animal print in this show for both Queenie and Marie Laveau actually drove me up the fucking wall because of the
Well, and rightfully
stereotypes.
so.
The stereotypes of like jungle vibes, especially with the amount of like cheetah print, leopard print,
Ooh,
like
you're
zebra,
so right.
like the like I could not stand it, especially when like you described that like behind the scenes thing where they were describing each of the girls' styles being curated with
Oh my
how
god, let me tell you. Yes, in the behind the scenes of this entire franchise, which they did do for the third season, why they didn't do it for the others, who knows? Don't care. But for this one, we have Madison, who's the Hollywood starlet evil bitch. Okay, cool. We have her aesthetic, we have her style. We know she'll like furs, luxury, cool. We have Nan, looks like a fucking pilgrim, Salem esque, 1600s collar, like she met Sarah Good, you know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
Crucible teeth. We have Zoe, Forever 21, gives me basic girl vibe, but she's cool, calm, collected. Then we have Misty, fuck it, she comes in, hippie chic, Cordelia, white witch chic, and then we have Fiona dark. Okay, that's their juxtaposition in their story within fashion. Where the fuck is Queenie? And I'm so glad you just brought up what we're talking about because you want to know what they described her style as, ladies and gentlemen? I can't believe I forgot about this. Wow. They described her, and God, I need like to breathe. Described her look as something that a lot of brown skin and or black individuals go through on a daily basis, whether it be in music, art, what have you. They always get told that something is urban every time, without fail. And I mean, my God, it's like just say the N word. Just
At
say
this
what you
point.
just say what you want to say, but please don't try to dance around and be like, oh, well, it's urban, it's ethnic, it's like you're a joke. And you're a joke as a designer and a clothes person. If anything, you're a clothing secretary.
Damn,
And
Violet
that's
Chachki.
oh my god, I didn't think you would know. But yes, you're a clothing secretary and I can't deal. And that's just that on that. It
Also,
is. It's so sad.
like with what we were talking about before, like we recorded this when it was like how it looked like they straight up like the stylist for everyone else was very careful about their aesthetic, making sure that they kind of looked together like matching. But like
Cohesive.
specifically for Queenie's wardrobe, they did not take account like the actress is like body shape or like what fits her proportions. It literally felt like they went to every H&M store in the area, got
Oh
her
my god.
size, but then just stayed with that and then just put everything on her for every given scene and just left it like that.
I agree. And it's very lazy. They just were lazy with her character.
Like, it like not only that, but it's also like it shows how much they did not know what to do with Queenie's character, with how they treated her essentially as a literal throwaway. Like,
And she was the most dynamic. I'm not saying that because I'm biased. I'm not saying that because I felt like, whoa, this is one of my first, sorry to cut you off, one of my first, like, representation or forms of it on TV as a black witch other than Rochelle.
mm-hmm.
But, like, it just, what a slap in the face when she doesn't dress good. Her attitude's fierce, but she's catering to a racist white bitch. Like, you say all of her things out loud and you hear how bad it is. You hear how bad the writing was for her. And it just felt like, why would she even be on the season now? What was the purpose? You have a fabulous actress like Gabourey Sidibe who won. I believe she either won a Golden Globe, Academy Award, or something for her film Precious. And I believe it was, something along those lines. Acting accolades that she has.
Like a seasoned actress. Like,
And exactly, a seasoned actress. Not as, seasoned as Jessica Lange, Kathy Bates, okay, but she still made it. She still has her name in Hollywood. She still has an over $1 million net worth. So she's somebody. And the fact that y'all...
also,
no.
because this is just like related also like to how they treated her, where it's
Right.
like her hair looks so dry for a lot of the season.
And didn't even, oh my God,
They didn't even
give her braids. They didn't give her any kind of anything to...
like they didn't style her at all, and then in Hotel they have her come out with a blowout.
Oh my God, a matching blowout to her top, by the way, just so we're clear.
Like,
which was one of her best outfits, and that's not saying much considering it's a fucking shirt.
that, and like she died in it.
Oh my God, that's her ghost death outfit. Aw.
Like,
I didn't even think of that. You're so fucking right.
the one time she wore something decent and she died.
And got stuck in it forever until Cordelia was like, we gotta get you out of here.
Not even Cordelia. A white man got her out.
Why? Oh my God. They sit there and gave it to a white man. I'm sick. Oh, this just made my hatred for Apocalypse. Oh, wow. Oh, God, I need to breathe.
I know that Michael was the Antichrist, but the way that they made him such a white savior was so crazy.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They wanted, no. Ryan Murphy wanted to fuck him, so he sit there and put him in, he put him in blood and all this. You're not going to convince me the only reason he got that role was because that was, Mr. Murphy's eye candy. Allegedly, everyone, because,
Let's not get sued.
I'm saying, so, girl, bye. You're not going to convince me shit.
No,
He
what I
wanted
mean...
him.
What I mean is that in the beginning of the season, he was literally a white savior because the male witches were like, he's the alpha! He's gonna surpass the supreme!
So fucking sick. Just for them to be dipshit dudes, which didn't help with them calling them dipshit dudes, because he turned out to be the fucking Antichrist.
Which,
so
okay...
Good on y'all. Alpha male for the win. Yeah, just caused the apocalypse though, so...
This is the last tangent. This is the last tangent before getting into, like, back to Queenie, like, more directly.
Please.
The way... Okay, I know Roanoke kind of fucked up, like, who the first Supreme was, in a way, and, like, how that makes sense. But I feel like Apocalypse actually destroys American Horror Story Coven, because it's like, if there are male witches, did they never reproduce with female witches? Like, how does that work if you're extinct, but then there's male witches in the world?
Okay. Well, because what did you just ate? You just ate down. You can't populate with another male witch. What's gonna happen? And then I'm sorry, we talked about this before, and this will be, yes, like you said, the last little piece of the tangent. But then being like, because of testosterone, it inhibits from going to the other side. And it's like, if y'all didn't have the budget to have them transfer to the dead, then just shut up. Like,
Also,
if you didn't have the budget to see it through, then just shut up.
they have magic. Like, they actively practice it. So even with the weird reverse misogyny, it still doesn't make sense because they're still practitioners. They can still do magic. So like even then, with that like weird throwaway line, they can still practice magic.
Also, hold on. Ugh, no, we can't talk about it because we gotta cover the points. But basically, there was the guy that Michael killed, that he set ablaze, or something happened to him, that the witches brought back.
The gas
And
station guy?
yes,
Yeah.
and then
The one who said that
snitched on
Michael
him.
was the one who said that Michael had something off about him.
Yes, and I mean, whatever. Oh, let's just cover the other point because the apocalypse is.
Apocalypse is its own video, honestly. But like back to like the point of like saying that where it's like we're starting with Queenie, but there are a lot of points with Queenie's story that go unresolved that explain a lot of the other parts of the story in Apocalypse and in Coven that aren't well structured with the writing.
I concur. Because you're right. Like, it's just so annoying because it's Queenie, you know?
Yeah. Because actually, okay, I think we have mainly two last points to cover generally because we've covered the majority of the other stuff in between.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, one of the. Hold on, let me try and see if I can find it. Okay, the way that she was replaced by Misty halfway through the show.
Can we talk about that? Because it just felt like it's giving white replacement. It is. And I don't know why. Because, okay, cool, she has the power of resurgence and, like, gives a new bitch to, oh my god, who's gonna be the supreme? It's like a fight to the death. But, no. Because Queenie was a well-established character, and it's like, you don't get to just write her off because you want a new person in here.
Also, the way that, like, Misty was an example. Like, we can have a separate episode about Misty, but, like, it's weird because she died, but then she came back, but then she stayed isolated, but then got exposed to the Coven because of Zoe.
Also, fully has, I guess, if she hasn't been to hell, has died regardless, and then brought herself back just to not bring herself back after she's been dust. But
I think the difference there is that she did like fully die, which was when her power activated, whereas when you're astral traveling, you're not dead, but it's harder because you have to keep yourself together in the separate plane and then come back from that.
yes, I know, or you're not coming back from it at all.
Yeah. Or like you come back incomplete, like the way that Kyle
No.
did.
Like, did it still work? Was it still effective for her character? I'll let you.
Cause like with Queenie basically going to Marie Laveau's side, which like that was treated in a way so underwhelming because then she like Cordelia straight up was like she's dead to me. Like when Madison and like Zoe went to find her under that bridge when she was getting that guy's heart out, like they didn't go for concern for her. They went because they wanted more people as like more witches as like a defense against like Hank and like Fiona at that point. Like it wasn't about Queenie and being worried about her, but more so they didn't want to have Queenie use her powers against them. Like very bizarre.
It was when they showed up to try to recruit her back or bring her back, and they're all looking at her like she has fucking 10 heads because she's trying to get more power.
Yeah.
from the voodoo side of her, which never was touched on. So, okay, cool. We didn't know if she ever got that power or not. And like you said, it was just centered around the white counterparts and trying to save the Coven, but not trying to save the weary witch that didn't feel as if she was. And hold on, what we're missing here is that it was Delphine to tell her, and that's the reason why she asked, because those girls don't like you because you're fat. They don't like you because you're black. And they were like, you will never understand them, and they will never understand you. And that's when she's like, maybe you're right. And she leaves.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Oh man.
Like, I did hear what you said, and like, you're right, it was Delphine that like pushed her, but I would argue that the environment that Cordelia was setting up for them was also what contributed to it, because we mentioned this in a
Yeah.
previous recording that didn't record, so like we're doing this one now. We're like, Cordelia, coming from a place, like, she comes from a place of privilege, not just in terms of like riches, but in terms of like, she is the daughter of the current leader of witches, as the Supreme's direct descendant, like literally royal blood in her veins. It's said twice in the show by both Myrtle and Fiona herself. Like, she grows up knowing she's a witch, she knows her heritage, she knows that she has to hide, and then she's having these girls that she cannot connect with. And it's even more of a struggle because with Queenie, it's a magic that she doesn't have any lineage to. And the person who does have lineage to it, that could potentially teach her, is considered an enemy to the Coven. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way she was gonna get support based on people who don't understand her, especially as the only black witch there. Not just a descendant of Tituba, but just as, like, a different culture entirely.
Exactly my point. It just feels like, wow. So you just really didn't want to see her succeed at any given point, did you? Because she's deflected bullets. She's she's brought people back. She my favorite was when she was like, if I got to bring Kyle back, he wouldn't look like he was put through a blender. And I believe it. Because she was like, there's no theme. And I was just like, yeah. Because you little girls did it. And it wasn't Queenie, duh.
Also, this is like another thing about like power questions, because the way that they brought Kyle back before we found out like Misty was returned from the dead, like the way that Kyle was brought back was also through Vitalum Vitalis, because it's not the ritual that they do of like sewing him together that brings him back. It's when Zoe kisses Kyle and like that Vitalum Vitalis accidentally is what brings him back. Where that like brings a whole other plot question of like, is the method of resurrection impacting how someone gets brought back, and also if they're a witch or not, how that impacts how they're brought back, like the condition.
Mm-hmm.
But like, not even that, because like Misty brings back Kyle's mom when she got gunned down, or like she got killed by, no, it's when she got gunned down that first time. That's like what lands Kyle in the hospital, because it was Hank trying to shoot Nan. Like,
Which,
she came back fully fine. So it was essentially, if they had just done Vitalum Vitalis first, then like that would have brought them back. So that's a question of like people using like the girls using their powers irresponsibly, which I also feel like is an oversight on Cordelia's part as a teacher that should have taught them that. Like,
yeah, you also got to remember that's when Madison was like, I stole this out of Foxy's stash.
right. Why did she not secure it?
Yeah. Wait a minute. If that book was written in a different language like all the other ones, and Queen was like, how you gonna read that, girl? How did they read that one?
There were instructions in English.
Oh.
Like, the incantation was in English, but the instructions were before that.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, something just don't seem right.
That was the explanation, but also, it feels like Cordelia, especially, like, with her power, it relates more to, like, incantations and, like, herbal things, so it makes sense that she has a spell book, like, traditionally. But like back to like Queenie, where like her book of shadows is mainly visual.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's mainly related to drawings because a lot of like traditions, especially when people were enslaved and were not allowed to be literate, like they had to go through visuals. So like that and like also like the hold on, I do not want to mispronounce this, but basically the drawings used in the voodoo tradition in order to conjure different spirits, like with the drawings on the floor, like with in chalk.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they're called laves, but I hold on. I don't want to get that wrong. Hold on. Oh, I'm trying to get the. Not when I search up Papa Legba, the first three fucking images are from American Horror Story, and then the fourth one is calling him in the demonic paradise wiki. Oh
All
my
right.
god.
See, this is what gentrification does.
Veve. It's a Veve, not a Leve. It's like Veve.
No, I didn't know how to spell that. I'm being sarcastic. I do know how to spell that. Oh, thank you.
Oh god, wait, is this still recording? Yes, it is. Okay. Veves. Like images in order to channel different spirits. And Papa Legba being the literal mediator between worlds, which Queenie could have connected with, especially since she was able to contact him on her own. Like,
Yep.
if
And
his
for that forth Marie Laveau and her and Madame Delphine Lalaurit's demise. And it's like, so she has this power to contact deities and or things like that, but you didn't want to maybe cover that in a show. I mean, if Papa Legba took Dan after the demise or after the set demise of them drinking their tea together and being like, "You're one crafty witch," wouldn't Nan have? Wouldn't Nan have like showed up and been like, "Hey, girl, I'm not actually dead, girl." Like, you know what I mean?
like I feel like with Queenie's connection to the other side, she would have been able to find out that Nam was dead sooner than what Zoe did, if I'm being
That's,
real honest.
I don't know. And it's weird because Zoe did the weird bath ritual thing, and
Yeah.
that's how she found out. But like, there's fully, oh goodness me, there's fully Queenie like throwing the chicken parts and or the chicken bones and or some kind of bones to like picture and things like that, trying to I guess divine for her.
Or speak
But
with Nan.
yes, and I don't know, like why does she get to be the one to do it, but not the one that was closest to her? Like I
Right.
know for a fact that Queenie was more close to her than Zoe was, so why wasn't she the one to find that out? Because wouldn't it make more sense to then realize, oh fuck, the lady that was saying this entire time that I need to be on this side of the witch is Marie Laveau, you know what I mean? And everything like that. I just saw that she killed my friend.
Right.
Do you understand that that would have like probably made Queenie crash out?
Like seeing Marie Laveau team up with her literal enemy for
Yeah.
centuries. Like, yeah, that should have been a reckoning moment for her. And like also the way that like that scene of like Nan being found out to have been murdered and then her death is overlooked by like drama between Zoe and Madison over Kyle because then she comes in to be like, "Oh, is this a date?" Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that whole love triangle. I can see what people's critique was when they were saying that it feels kind of like teen drama esque and like high school, but I don't know.
That
Just
was
feels very incomplete.
that was so fucking weird to me.
Yeah, especially fucking Kyle being like, you know what it's like, you know what the other side is like, and to not feel anything. And then, Madison's like, oh my god. And so I just,
Like I feel like we could get more into it with like both Madison and Zoe's character because I feel like Madison is overly villainized, but then Zoe is given a lot of passes for the shady shit she does.
Speak on it. Speak on it.
It's not their episode, so I'm gonna go into Queenie again.
Oh, goddamn, we jumped to tracks, ladies and jellyfish. All right. Well,
We did jump tracks, which is the point being with bringing up Papa Legba is because they really misrepresent voodoo and also like who Papa Legba as a spirit is.
that's just so disrespectful. Oh my god, not to mention, because this is where we left off beforehand, before we realized that audio didn't work.
Yeah.
They tried to make him, and I don't think I covered it in this yet, but I'm going to now. They sit there and tried to make Papa Legba a fucking 80s rock star by doing coke as a way to summon him. Like, what are we doing here? I can see why maybe Fiona did it because, you know, what else is new?
Like,
but in practice of voodoo, if anything, they will use tobacco as an offering. So they literally just smoked the cigarettes that they fucking did any other time, like Fiona would do, and it would have sufficed. Or burned it, something.
Or alcohol, like rum. Like, I know that house had plenty of alcohol. Like,
but really, coke, and then he did the coke too. Like, you guys are just disrespectful, man.
That and like really fucked up how it was. Like, I understand Marie Laveau and like Queenie being able to like have contact with Papa Legba because that's within their heritage, like that is within their literal bloodline. It would not work for Fiona because she is literally a white woman that does not have any ties to voodoo, and also she literally degraded Tituba. Like, I feel like if she tried to call him, she would have fucking died, like Fiona. So like, because, like, that's the other thing. Voodoo is a closed practice. If you don't have, like, the heritage or, like, the bloodline for it,
connection or respect to it,
you're getting bodied.
You're bodied down.
Especially if it's spirits related to an oppressed people who have dealt with outsiders, particularly white outsiders, colonizers, trying to infringe on their rights to life. Like,
and being told that they're barbarians, this, that, and other for their practices because it wasn't fucking Christianity. So colonization, yeah, it's a whole thing.
Cause that, and like maybe we'll get into it with like the episode that could be focused on like just misrepresentation of voodoo in this show. But like crazy to me that like they had Papa Legba not protect Queenie or Marie Laveau or the people who were gunned down in the shop.
It's weird. It's weird that Hank was able to go into a voodoo protected like space.
And no one get any warning beforehand?
Especially Marie Laveau.
Especially at the fucking door. Like,
yeah, just power. I'm very confused as to how she wasn't connected to someone through someone to see that shit happen. I mean, for Christ's sake, she literally snapped the man's body or parts of it, if I'm not mistaken, stabbed it with a voodoo doll that she made as a warning.
Wait, why did she not just use that to body Hank completely?
You see what I'm saying?
Oh my god.
It's weird that she used a literal voodoo doll as a warning after she realized that he was a witch hunter and was going to take her out, but didn't decide to keep it and body him like you said. And who saved Marie Laveau? Queenie, the lady of the hour. Another person that she tried helping that spit in her face in return every time.
Because then she didn't even check to see if she was alive. Like, what happened to Queenie after the shop? Because, like, she had to have gotten up and seen all those dead bodies. Like, what does that do to somebody?
I don't know, but clearly not enough for them to write about it.
Oh, dear God. Because then I think about, like, how fucked up it is that they had Papa Legba, a spirit, meant to help guide practitioners, then be the one being like, hey, you have to kill black babies as a deal. Like, what? He's not the devil. Or whatever stereotype of the devil there is. Like,
He's not a trickster spirit, is he? Is Papa Legba an actual trickster spirit? I don't think he is.
No, more a mediator.
That's what I'm saying. He's
He's like
between
he's like
crossroads.
someone in between.
Yeah, he's essentially a crossing guard
He's like
for
a
alive
gatekeeper.
bitches. For alive bitches and dead bitches. And
I just,
uh,
cause like, why would he not like? Why would Queenie not contact him to then get more information about Tituba and her blood ancestors outside of her adoptive family? Like, why was that not her family and like her character arc to understand how she connects with magic? Not on Marie Laveau's terms or Fiona's or Cordelia's, but her own.
there you go. It just feels like, again, this is a completely fully realized character that, or has the power to be a fully realized character that just never gets touched on. And again, we can't talk about Nan, even though I'd love to. But yes, I mean, there's like the what could have been, like you said, and that she could have used her proficiency in dissension to speak with said ancestors. I mean, for Christ's sake, we already saw it with Papa Legba, but it seemed like they just didn't want to make her more powerful than she could have been. In connecting her to her. Again, they just, for people that wanted to create a dilemma with her being pulled in between powers and factions and sections and what have you, they just didn't do well.
They like completely wasted a character. Also, like one of our last points to like cover, since we have covered a lot, the last one is literally about like her power scaling of like why did they stop having Queenie do the 7 wonders just because Cordelia joined when she got through 5 out of 7 of them?
Yeah, because she never got to do divination because Madison threw a fucking temper tantrum.
Well, that and like the reason they disqualified her was because she couldn't bring Zoe back to life. But it was just confusing because she brought back Misty.
Precisely the point.
Because like we could argue that like it was Cordelia being there that had her magic enhanced, and then during the 7 wonders when she got more of her confidence, it was more of her power coming back to her. That's why Queenie couldn't do it. But like that's still weird to include. And even then that explanation is a reach on my part because they never say it in the show.
Exactly. And all that they say at a certain point that I guess they tried to do as a foreshadowing because it's Cordelia that says everything, and then when she becomes the Supreme, it like repeats everything back to her. The hallmark sign of any rising Supreme is glowing, radiant hope. And what they said to her was kind of the same of not the when the world sees a wall, we see a window. What was it that she said to Queenie? Oh my god.
I think it was that, like, when the world sees a wall, we see a window.
Right, during that scene, I mean, if that was the case, why? It is a reach because so this whole time, because she was blind when Misty was dead, and she was blind when Zoe was dead. So what was the difference of her doing Vital and Vitalis first versus her? Like, so it's like, why would you make Queenie do it if you knew it better? And she was able to successfully do it. So for me, she's done damn near all of the 7 wonders.
Like throughout the entire season, yeah.
But not only throughout the entire season, you disqualified her because she couldn't bring someone back. That doesn't make sense. Are we grading on a curve? Isn't it just about power?
Well, because Vital and Vitalis is one of the 7 wonders that she couldn't bring someone back. Like, Madison could have brought back Zoe, but she decided to kill the fly and bring that back, which qualified. But, like, her not bringing back Zoe, like, Queenie not bringing back Zoe is what disqualified her.
I don't know. It just seems abnormal to me. Now that I'm saying that out loud, is because it's like, really, you disqualified her because you couldn't bring a girl back. The same bitch that thought it'd be smart to try to transmute onto a fucking spiked fence.
That was foul.
I mean, what? So you're meaning to tell me she can stop zombies with the flick of her fucking wrist, but she can't navigate a fence? Come on now.
Yeah,
If anything, transmute her in half into a tree or something. For all that.
that okay. That I don't even feel like is a Zoe problem. That feels like a problem with like power scaling and how inconsistent it is throughout American Horror Story of what the girls can and can't do. That was never figured out.
Okay, you like that. I'll give you that one.
Like, no, it is definitely
I
odd.
will, because it is It is a power scaling issue. I feel like it is because again with Nan they did the whole she can do mind control, but sure she could also get held down by two older bitches underneath the tub and that do her off. Like whatever.
Also, no one heard her in the bath, like, struggling?
See, it's like okay, so what? You're meaning to tell me they were all out for the fucking day and they decided to go get Jamba Juice? Like you're so be be so for real. Cordelia was, I believe, blind during that time.
But she had visions.
Precisely. So why wasn't she up in that tub touching it or something? Trying to figure out what happened to this hoe. It again, like you said, power inconsistencies. I also don't like. Speaking of power inconsistencies, I thought the one scene that the necklace was charmed and that the whole scene wasn't real and that it was made up was so stupid.
Like,
For it to then be the reveal that, oh my god, my mom's been the one that's murderous this whole time. Just felt like another excuse to make Cordelia just seem more powerless, more out of control until she was able to do so. Does that make sense?
Because I feel like, especially, like, when they, like, introduced the site with, like, Cordelia, like, that's when, like, Nan's powers with mind reading took, like, a back step, and her more violent, like, telekinesis is what the show focused on, especially after, like, Luke's death.
Oh, what a... Oh, God. I can't wait till we cover Nan because
She could be the next episode. She could be the next episode because I have thoughts.
Can she please be the next one?
Yeah, we could do that.
Yes, because that scene is one of my favorites. No, she's gonna pay. Like, yes, ma'am. Get her due justice. Yeah.
Yeah, we can
Make
do
her
that.
drink that bleach, bitch. Work.
But like, final thoughts on Queenie, because I feel like we're transitioning into Nan right now.
Oh no, that's fine. I will gladly give my final thoughts, opinions, and love for my diva. I love Queenie because, like I said, other than Rochelle, she was the only Black witch that I had seen on TV. Not to mention, she was the first plus-size Black witch that I've seen in representation ever, next to Kathy Najimy's character in Hocus Pocus as Mary. But even then, they played her as Dowdy, whereas Queenie had a more fire streak and a more air and confidence to herself, but just deeply lacking in other things. Writer's fault, not hers. And I feel like while it was that way, I still feel like it was defined and made her a character that I fell in love with. And obviously enough for us to make an entire podcast episode on.
Yes.
Because, wow. Like, all of the things that we have previously mentioned just further stack against her and never gave her a time to shine because focused on white counterparts, power inconsistencies, the drab clothing. I mean, geez, like they just set her up. The microaggressions, the fat phobia, misogynoir, like they did not eat the way that they thought they would, pun intended. They just didn't. I love my girl. They did her so dirty. That's my final thoughts. They did my girl dirty, period.
Going into my final thoughts, because it's similar to yours, where she was one of the Black witches like one of the first Black witches beyond like Rochelle from The Craft and like Bonnie that I knew like in passing from like the Vampire Diaries. Like that was like actually like a character that I liked. And like Rochelle I also liked, but like Queenie had like a forefront with her fiery spirit of like
exactly. She wasn't meek. That was the thing. She wasn't meek and timid.
right, like she was a present person and I appreciated that a lot. And like I feel like especially with like her past being so interesting and so tied to the origin of witches with Tituba, like that should have been a bigger point in the story. And it is so disappointing that it wasn't, that I'm just kind of just left wondering, being in my own theories of like what could have been, to be able to like have more of her character be like more fleshed out as it should have been. And it's so disappointing how it wasn't, and how a great character could have been greater if it hadn't fallen for similar pitfalls I've seen throughout like fantasy media, where if there's a black witch within a witchy media, their story is immediately about race and not about like their personal struggles and like their own journeys, and it just like so disappointing. And I hope that with representation now that it'll change for better. But yeah, that's my final thoughts.
No, I absolutely agree. And I don't know, I personally just can't wait to cover all the other characters and like the deep dives we're going to do on them. But I think for the fieriest one that I would have the most in common with, and I think the second most shot on character next to Nan, which is the worst that we gotta talk about.
Oh my god, yeah.
Was still in a way the best representation at the time that we could have had, and I can't wait, like you said, to see the further progression of, especially with dark skin, plus sized, and women in media, and done properly, and not done as a huge disservice to the actress and every other person alike. And that's all I got on that one, Deeves.
Word.
Oh my. Okay, so see, we should have made an outro script.
It's fine. We ready? Thank y'all for listening and tuning in.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Thank you all so much thank you all so much for watching and tuning into this episode of Spill the Cauldron, where we spill things.
Oh my god!
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the episode. See you next time. Bye.
Bye, hoes.